What's up, guys? It is IRGT85. Hope everyone is having a great Monday, but of course, we have stuff to talk about going on in the world of video games. We're going to start things off talking about some updates to the whole Heritage Auctions WATA situation because things are getting absolutely out of control with this, and then we're going to finalize with some stuff about EA. Yes, EA, the company everyone hates, is doing some things that, well, a lot of people are hating with this. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video, but without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. Now, you might remember a couple days ago on the channel, we talked about some crazy copy of The Legend of Zelda for the NES selling for $870,000. Now, this was done through Heritage Auctions. This was a WATA Graded 9.0 copy of The Legend of Zelda for the NES. It was obviously a sealed copy as well, but this was the highest that we had ever seen a game sell for, and it was absolutely crazy. We talked about it on the channel, like I said, a couple days ago. I tried to make sense of it, but in that same sort of auction, we actually touched on a copy of Super Mario 64 that was also selling. Now, this was a sealed copy, once again, of Super Mario 64, the classic iconic N64 game, and at the time of the filming of that video, it was at $115,000, which was way beyond anything we had seen with a Super Mario 64 sealed copy sell for. Well, last night, that sealed copy of Super Mario 64 ended up completing its auction, and it sold for over $1.5 million. $1.5 million for a copy of Super Mario 64. And it's like, okay, I get it, you know, it's sealed. It was a 9.8 WATA graded copy of this game, but something doesn't seem right with this. And, you know, a lot of people throw around the thing that, oh, well, comic books sell for really high prices all the time, but I feel like comic books are different than a sealed game because I feel like the market for a comic book is actually bigger than it would be for a sealed video game. A sealed video game is much more niche than an old comic from the 1950s that gets a high grading on it because obviously comics are hard to store. Comics, of course, are made out of paper, so you get things like water damage, you get things like stank on them because of how old they are, because they've probably been sitting in your basement collecting mold and mothballs. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out why this game sold for $1.5 million. Now, within this same auction, there was another copy of Super Mario 64. Now, this was a 9.6 graded WATA thing, and this sold for $13,200, which, I mean, is still a lot of money, but what the hell is the difference between this 0.2 when it comes to the WATA grading scale that someone would say, hey, I'm not going to pay $13,000 for a copy of Super Mario 64, I'm going to pay $1.5 million. And the more I think about it, the more it smells fishy, and the more it seems like a scam of some sort. Now, I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but there's two parties involved with this. Obviously, it comes to Heritage Auctions and WATA, the grading company. Now, looking at WATA, the grading company, they are a newer grading company when it comes to the grand scheme of things. Of course, there was the VGA, which was pretty much the standard for many years, and then WATA came along and they were kind of like the upstart company, and now they're doing all the grading, it seems like. So what would the benefit be for both Heritage Auctions and WATA to be doing something a bit scammy, a bit deceitful when it comes to these copies of the games? I think it's pretty clear what this would be. When Heritage Auctions first started working with WATA, they actually made an announcement about it and put like a little statement out about them working with WATA in the future for graded video games. Now, of course, this is some sort of a business relationship and no aspects of the business part of it were done, but what sort of caused this relationship to actually formulate, and what would the benefits be for both companies? Well, obviously we don't know any sort of business side of it or behind closed doors sort of things with it, but I do think there are a few things that you can look at to see why this would be mutually beneficial for these companies, both of these companies, to see these games sell for ridiculously high prices. Heritage Auctions doesn't care because, hey, they're getting a percentage of this auction, so no matter what this game sells for, they're getting a percentage of it, and a percentage of $1.5 million plus is a very nice percentage. How does it benefit WATA? Well, obviously WATA gets their name out in the public. WATA gets their name out in the press, and they become the biggest company when it comes to grading video games. Of course, like I said, VGA has been around for longer than WATA, but you never hear about VGA anymore. Everyone is talking about WATA. So WATA benefits from this because now more people are saying, hey, I have a sealed copy of the game. Let me send it in to get WATA graded and maybe I can auction it, thus artificially inflating the prices of these sealed video games because you don't really really know how much they're worth unless somebody buys it. So could there have been some shadow bidding to drive up the price of this? I think it's very probable when it comes to this situation. You see people shadow bid all the time with stuff on eBay. Why would this be any sort of a different situation? You never learn who ends up buying these games either. Even video game preservationists such as Kelsey Lewin are like, this is kind of weird. What is going on with this? Something about this just doesn't make sense. And I think the more you look into it and the more you look at the situation, it really doesn't make sense. If a copy sells for $13,000, that's in the same auction as a copy that sells for $1.5 million, and the only difference between it is a 0.2 grading system on an arbitrary grading system that really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. It's just one company's opinion of how quality the seal is on it and how tight the seal is on it. Like, is that really worth $1 million+ difference? And to me, I just don't see this. Celebrities buy comic books because, like I said, comic books are much harder to store and contain because they're made out of paper. But sealed video games, you could go on eBay right now and get a sealed copy of Super Mario 64. Sure, it doesn't have that stupid WATA grading or anything on it, but if you're just interested in the sealed copy of the game for whatever reason, you could purchase it at a fraction of the price. So I don't know, man. I'm not trying to throw around accusations or anything. I'm just trying to look at this situation a bit deeper than just a surface level, because something does not make sense to me about a copy of Super Mario 64 selling for $1.5 million, especially considering that Heritage Auctions never says who ends up buying these things. So is there something sinister going on with this? Is there something suspect to drive up the sealed retro gaming price market? I think so. And I think that as time goes on, you're going to see more and more crazy instances of this. And the more you see of it, the more you should question it, because something just doesn't add up with this at all. And finally, we have some EA related news to talk about because, well, I mean, it's EA. Everyone loves to hate on EA. I mean, I like some EA games. I can't say that I don't. Obviously, I miss sort of their back catalog of games such as Haunting starring Poltergeist. But right now, soccer or football is very hot. Italy won the Euro Cup thing last night. That was pretty cool. As a greasy Italian, I was definitely proud of my people winning that, but I don't really care about soccer or football that much. But it's obviously a very big franchise, especially in European states where FIFA is a top-selling game every single year. Well, EA is coming under some scrutiny right now with both next-generation owners and, of course, Nintendo Switch owners because, I mean, why not? You got to piss off the Nintendo Switch people, too, as well. We've seen something in the world of video games recently since the upgrades to the new PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, where some companies are offering free next-generation upgrades for their games. People think that this is a very pro-consumer thing. If you buy the last-generation version of the game, you get a free upgrade to the next-generation version of the game. And it is definitely a very pro-consumer thing. You're offering a free upgrade to the next-generation version of the game if you buy the previous generation version of the game. And last year, EA offered that sort of free upgrade with both FIFA and Madden. Well, it looks like the tides are turning with that, though, because EA saw that they could make some money from this. It has been discovered that FIFA 2022 will not have a free upgrade unless you get the Ultimate Edition. Now, the Ultimate Edition is a digital-only version that retails for $79.99 as opposed to the $59.99 of the standard version of the game, and this is the only way to get this upgrade for the game. So if you buy it on your PS4 or your Xbox One, the Ultimate Edition, which is only a digital thing, at $79.99, you will get a free upgrade to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One version of the game on the respective system that you pick it up for. So now people are coming out here with their pitchforks and yelling about it, and I can honestly see both sides of this coin, and that might be something that's actually a bit shocking to you, but I could kind of understand it, because while it is pro-consumer to offer a free upgrade, is it really anti-consumer to not offer a free upgrade if you're not having to buy the game at the full price once again? Like, I think that's still pro-consumer in and of itself. Something like with Death Stranding, you could pay $10 and you can get the director's cut version of the game on the PlayStation 5. With this situation, you're paying $20 for the Ultimate Edition. If you have in mind that you're going to pick up a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, then you can upgrade to that version of the game with that $20 price point over the original version of the game. And it's like, they're still not charging you the full price of the game. So is it really anti-consumer? I don't necessarily think so. You got to remember, video games are a business at the end of the day. And if there's money to be made, a company would be foolish to not do this. You got to remember, this is the first generation where we have ever seen these free upgrades for any sort of game. If you buy it on the previous console generation, generation, you get the free upgrade to the next generation one. It used to be for every console generation that if you wanted the next generation or the current generation version of the game, you wouldn't buy the old version of the game, you would buy the new version of the game. And if you bought the old version of the game, well, guess what? You're paying full price for the new version of the game unless you're trading it in or something like that. So I don't know. It doesn't really look anti-consumer to me. It's EA, so everyone loves to hate on EA, and I can totally understand why. But, you know, these companies want to make money, and all because it's a specific company doing this doesn't mean that they're the antichrist of video games, because like I said, every console generation before this one, you had to buy the next generation version of the game at full price. If a company's willing to offer you a discount if you buy it on a separate version of the game, or a discount to upgrade to the next generation version of the game, like, I think that's fair play. And I know there's going to be lots of people in the comments that are like, yeah, it's wrong, you're wrong, RGT, but that's just the way I see it. But another situation with EA that is angering Switch owners is once again with FIFA 2022, because obviously football, soccer is very hot right now. A lot of people are talking about it, and to their credit, EA has done a slightly better job of bringing their games to the Nintendo Switch. For whatever reason, they're very hard-headed. They're like, oh, well, this engine won't run on the Switch, but then a game comes along that has that engine running on it, like with Plants vs. Zombies. Obviously, that uses the Frostbite engine. That's the reason you haven't seen games like Madden on the Nintendo Switch, because Frostbite can't run on the Switch, but it obviously can because Plants vs. Zombies is on the Frostbite engine. But they've done better this past year with bringing games over. Of course, you had the Need for Speed game that came out on about a week later after the other versions of the game, but it was a very good port of the game, and it seems like EA had maybe been turning a corner. But no, once again, if you are a football or soccer fan, you would be well aware that for the past, I don't know, couple years, you've been having these special editions of FIFA come out on the Nintendo Switch called the Legacy Editions, which means that there's going to be no upgrades. You get a roster update, and then that's it. You know, there's nothing else going on with this. There's no improvements to the gameplay. There's no improvements to the graphics. And once again, EA has announced that the FIFA 2022 version coming to the Nintendo Switch is a Legacy Edition. It'll be coming out on October 1st, and once again, you get no sort of upgrades over the previous console version for the Nintendo Switch on FIFA. So it's like, what the hell are you doing? Why do you keep re-releasing literally the same game with a roster update? Here's a better idea. Offer a roster update for people who bought FIFA 2021, and they could purchase for their version of the game should they want the updated rosters, because really, to me, a roster update in a soccer game isn't nearly as important as something like in a basketball game or something like that. Usually these people stick with their same teams and their same clubs for years and years and years, so to get a roster update doesn't really mean all that much. Now, to their credit, EA has actually learned their lesson, I guess, a little bit, and they're offering FIFA 2022 Legacy Edition for the Nintendo Switch at just $39.99, so it's not the full $60 like it has been, but still, this to me is just ridiculous. It's like, either just release a roster update for FIFA 2021 so that people can upgrade to it, or don't even bother with the new version of the game. Like, I can't foresee a lot of people rushing out to get FIFA 2022 Legacy Edition just because of the fact that it has a different roster potentially for $40 on the Nintendo Switch when you haven't done anything else to the game. I buy the NBA games every year, but that's because improvements or de-improvements, depending on how you're looking at them, are made with the 2K franchise, whereas with this, it's literally the same game. So a lot of Nintendo Switch owners are angry once again at EA. You were doing so well. You had people looking at your games again. You were bringing a bunch of stuff to the Nintendo Switch, but now you're just like, no, we're going to bring the Legacy Edition back and just redo and just crap on all that goodwill that we've gotten with Nintendo Switch owners over the past year. So good job, EA. You're knocking it out of the park, buddy. Keep doing those awesome Legacy Editions. Alrighty, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. This whole WATA and Heritage Auctions thing, $1.5 million for a sealed copy of Super Mario 64. Something a bit fishy with this to you, because something's a bit fishy with this to me. And of course, all the EA talk. Do you hate EA? Should they give you free upgrades? Should they actually pay you money for upgrading to the next generation version of the game, because that would be pro-consumer? Or do you sort of understand the business side of it? And then FIFA Legacy Edition, woohoo! Woohoo! And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like and share the video as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.